Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of the Model 1 of the English Qudurat exam video. It is long overdue, I apologize, I have been extremely busy. Hopefully now I'm going to have a more consistent upload schedule, so subscribe for more, cause more is coming. If you need any help, other than these videos, which will I be posting. So for example, if you need advice for studying, if you need anything, maybe special questions, uh, do not hesitate to email me. My email will be in the description. I have a I have professional Qudrat teachers if you're looking to solve certain questions. I am nowhere near a professional. I'm just a guy who wants to help. That's why sometimes I maybe overcomplicate things and whatnot. But nevertheless, it's good practice. But anyways, if you need me personally for any study advice, I am available. But for now, let's get into the video.
So for question 13, we have 3 workers produce 1500 cans in 4 days. And how many days can 4 workers produce 4000 cans? So for these types of questions are fairly common on the Qudurat. You're going to be seeing them a lot. So try to practice this method that I'm going to use today. And this method is used by the book. And I don't necessarily like it. It takes too much time, but with practice and using some logic, you're going to be able to get it quite quickly. So how does this method work? So you take 3 workers, 1500 cans, 4 days. All right. So then you're going to just write over here, for example, workers, or in other types of questions, you could write people, workers, citizens, whatever it is. And the number of cans, right? Because that's the other category we have. And then we have the days as well. So we take the 3 workers, 1500 cans, and 4 days. And then you have the question, so how many days can 4 workers produce 4000 cans? All right, so then we're going to have 4 workers producing 4000 in X days, because that's what we're trying to find. And here is the weird part. You go 3 by 4000 by 4. Just do a little W basically. It's not really a W, but basically you do a W. And then you go 4000, 1500 X. So then what is that going to look like? So for example, let's take the first example first. So you're going to have 3 by 4000, right, by 4. And then that is going to be set equal to 4 1500x. So that is 4 1500x. All right, now before you start multiplying and going crazy, you do need to simplify this before you multiply. Otherwise, it will really take a long time. That was my mistake. I just multiplied and then I ended up with huge numbers that I couldn't solve. So, for example, you take as much zeros away as possible. You see here a 4 and here a 4, so you take those away, right? You end up with something very simple. You end up with 3 by 40, which is 120, is equals to 15x. And when you have 15x, so then how are you going to find x? You divide both sides by 15. And you end up 120 divided by 15, that is just 8. So then x is equals to 8, which is choice number D. Now, question 14, we have compare value of A and value of B, one of the most common questions in Qudurat. So, value of A here, we have 1 plus half multiplied by 1 plus third. There are brackets, so you know that this is a multiplication. So, this is the first value. Value of B is 1 plus 1 over 4 plus 1/5, 1 over 5. So right off the bat, there's a way to find out the answer here. You can, of course, pause the video and try to figure it out, but basically, when you see a higher number of a denominator, that just means lesser value. So to me, how I actually did this on the actual exam, because I found this question on the exam, how I did it almost in seconds, I just looked, oh, okay, 1 over 4 and 1 over 5, that is just less than 1 over 3 and 1 over 2, and that's how I figured it out. And I was low on time, so I went with A. But if you actually want to get it right, you have no space to make mistakes, then let's see the actual method. So for value of A, we have 1 plus 1 over 2. All right. So before we even continue, we can just, find a way to make this more logical, more simpler. So we need to be able to add fractions. They need to have the same identical denominators. So how do you make this an identical denominator to 2? Well, 1 is just equal to 2 over 2. They're the same. So instead of writing 1, you could just write it as 2 over 2. And that's the same for the rest of the question. So we're going to have this being multiplied to 1 plus 1 over 3. Again, you can just write 1 as 3 over 3 so that it has the same denominator as 1 over 3. And then you can just add these two together now. So this is going to be 3 over 2 multiplied by 4 over 3. From here on out, we can start canceling values. The 3 goes away with the 3, and 2 and 4, basically, they divide, it becomes 2. And that's what you have as A, you have the value of 2. Now let's take B, it's the same method. It is the same method. You have 4 over 4 plus 1 over 4, which is going to be 5 over 4, being multiplied to 5 over 5 plus 1 over 5. And there we have it. It's 5 over 4 being multiplied to 6 over 5. And it's the same thing. Go over here, and so 6 divided by 4, that's, going to be, because this is just going to make, so 6 over 4, so that just has to be less than 2. This is a fraction, and it's not a whole number, and it's less than 2. It's actually 1 and a half, 1 by 1 over 2. So in this way, we can see that, A is greater. Took us more time than if you just used, logic, but when you really want to make sure you got it right, this is the way. All right, now question 15 might seem intimidating. You might look at this question and say, this is, odd, you can't really solve it, but it's actually really simple. So you usually want to take the givens and assign them. So the area of the circle is 25 pi, right? Then the area of the square is what? So they're trying to find the area of the square, but they only gave us the area of the circle. So how are we going to use that to our advantage? You always have to use the givens to your advantage. If you're not using them, you're doing something wrong. So what do we have here? 25 pi. So that would mean that the radius is 5. So this is our circle, right? So that would mean that the radius has to be 5. Why? Because remember that the area of the circle is pi r squared. And 25 pi is simply, if you square root 25, you're going to have 5. 5, right? So that's the radius. So it's going to be 5. Okay, so then the diameter is just 2 by r, right? That's this part. That's the diameter. So then that would mean that the other side is also 5, which will make it 10. So now we start recognizing the square. So, one side has the length of 10, so the other sides are also 10. And the area of the square is just one side squared. And so 10 squared is 100, and your answer is A. Alright, question 16. It says, if x is equals to root 7 plus root 3, and y is equals to, so this is what x is equals to, and y is equals to root 28 plus root 12, then x is what? Is it y? So is it, for example, equal to y, or half of y, or 2 multiplied by y, or y plus 2? Okay, so this question is fairly difficult to some people. But again, use the givens. When you're given something, you have to know that the person who made the exam, whoever they may be, they're actually in the beginning of the page of the Qudurat book, but when they made this exam, they gave you the givens to actually help you. So how do these two relate to each other? Well, when you find any of these questions where just the givens just don't relate to each other, try to simplify one of them. And y seems to be the most simplifiable object. So how are we going to simplify it? All right, the same way you simplify, any square root. So root 28 plus root of 12. So let's start with this one. How are we going to simplify this? So root 28, that is 4 by 7, right? 28, so 4 by 7. Okay, and whenever you have this, okay, so which one of these numbers is actually, square rootable? That would be 4. So then, what is the square root of 4? It's 2. So this is going to become 2 root 7. So, okay, now we have it in a more, simplifiable form. All right, plus the square root of 12. And what is 12? It is also 3 by 4, right? Okay, so why wouldn't you, for example, use 6 by 2? Well, you're not going to use 6 by 2 because it gets you closer to your objective. You're always trying to get closer. So when you use 6 by 2, you're actually just confusing yourself more. So we used here 4 by 7. So if we can have another number that, is related to 4, right, which is, 4, so we're going to use it. So it's going to be root 4 by 3. And 4 is square rootable, so we can take it out. And it becomes 2 root 3. Now, can you see it? So x is equals to root 7 plus root 3. And y, in its simplified form, equals 2 root 7 plus 2 root 3. So it's just x multiplied by 2. So y is equals to 2x, basically, as you can see right here. Which means, because remember, don't be fooled and just go, oh yeah, 2y. The question is asking, what is x in relation to y? So, if y is 2x, that means that x is half of y, which is right here. So, for question 16, the answer is B. Alright, so we have questions 17 to 19 are based on the following table. Whenever you find these types of questions, it's not going to necessarily be, table. It can be a graph or whatever it is. These are usually going to be free questions, which means that the answers are very simple. Do not underwhelm, you might be underwhelmed and then end up getting the answer quite quickly and then thinking something is wrong. Really, nothing is wrong. They just gave you a free question. So make sure to get these right. This is the only time while you have space to breathe and just solve things in mere seconds. So let's get started. Question 17. The average number of studying hours of Sameh to Majid, in a ratio form, is what? Alright. So since here they asked for the average number of studying hours, we're going to take the average of each. So starting with, Sameh. Okay, 7 plus 5 plus 7 plus 2 plus 3. So best way to do this, 2 plus 3, that is 5, plus 5, that's 10, plus 7 plus 7, that is 14. We have 24. Over here, we have 6 plus 5, that is 11. 2 plus 7, that is 9. So we have 20. And then plus 4, we get 24. So, and you know, since it's asking for the average, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 5 numbers here, 5 numbers here. It has to be the same. It is the same because 24 over 5, which is the average for Sameh, is also 24 over 5, which is the average for Majid. So for question 17, the answer is C. Then you have the least number of studying hours for Majid was on which day? 2, on Thursday. You see how you can really just, fly by these questions. The difference between the number of studying hours for Sabih and Majid on Sunday was what? So I think that the goal of the exam here is to confuse you. The difference between the number of studying hours, they literally just mean, okay, go to Sunday, 7, 4. What is 7 minus 4? On the Qudurat exam, you are being asked, what is 7 minus 4? And that's 3. So that's how you just fly by through these questions. We're going to move on to question 20.
Moving on, question 20 says, in the given circle, the shaded area is such and such. So this is the shaded area. Okay, so this is the shaded area, right? And we want to find its area. So I actually fell into the trap here of overcomplicating the question. So I was trying to remember, there's a rule about circle parts. So there's a rule of finding an area, this area of the circle. But it's actually a lot simpler than that. You don't have to remember rules or anything. So you look at this circle, okay? So this, right, this area over here, I'm gonna just highlight it. Okay, that is not what I wanted. So this area right here, this is 1/4 of a circle, right? So, okay, so what's the area of the whole circle? Because what we're trying to do here, what we're gonna try and do, right, how to logicize these questions, you're gonna find the area of the whole circle. So this is the first step, whole circle area. And of course you have to do this as quick as possible, whole circle area, right? And then the second step is to find, well, that by 1/4, whatever that number is. It will give you 1/4 of the area, so the area of the fourth of the circle. And you can use that to deduce the shaded area. Why? Because you have this number over here. So what you really need is the area of the fourth of the circle, right? I'm just gonna simplify it as A of F, right? Minus the area of the triangle, because we have a right triangle here. And triangles, if you remember their formula to find the area, it is half base multiplied by height. Pretty straightforward formula. So let's do it. Okay, so what's the area of the whole circle? It is 16 pi because it's pi r squared, right? So it's 16 pi. So what's 1/4 of that? That's just 4 pi, right? 4 pi. All right, so then that's the area of the half, fourth circle, fourth of a circle. And then what's the area of the triangle? So it is half base by height, right? So the base is 4 and the height is also 4. All right, so then what is half of 16? It is 8. So by logic, we deduce this, right? Area of the fourth of the circle minus the area of the triangle. So now we have 4 pi minus 8, and that is B. Now, question 21 is kind of similar to 20, although they have nothing to do with each other. But the thing about it is that there's a rule for all of the questions that are on the Qudurat, they have rules. And if you memorize the rules, if you memorize, the formulas, you can definitely ace this exam. But if you really want to, be superb and not really waste a lot of time, try to just logicize it. Try to understand what are we trying to get. Okay. So for example, this question, it says, in how many ways can we write a number using the digits 0, 2, 3, and 5? And the number is greater than 1000. You have to utilize the given. So this is important. Okay. The number is greater than 1000. This is very important information. Why? Because, okay, so let's write 1000 here. So we want to see how many ways can we use these digits to get any number that is greater than 1000, right? So for example, we can have 2, 0, 3, and 5. Or we can have 3, 2, 0, and 5. Or we can have 5, 3, 2, and 0, right? Or we can have 3, 5, 0, and 2. What is the pattern that you notice here? So 2 is in the first position, 2 is in the second position, third position, then fourth position. So if we want to repeat this, infinitely, so for infinitely, so what we're trying to do is, get every possible location any of these numbers can be in, right? So 2 or 3 or 5, not just 2. So okay, that's you basically look at this and you're like, okay, so 2 can be in 4 positions, right? So that's in 2 by 4. Okay. And 3 can also be in 4 positions because it can just go instead of the 2 here, right? So that's 3 by 4. Okay. All right, I forgot the rest of the 4 here. Oh, damn. There you go. And what else? The 5 can also be in 4 positions. But the 0, that is where the given comes in. This question is really simple, but the given is very important because 0 is not going to be multiplied by 4 here. 0 cannot be in the first position. It can't be here. If it's here, that number is less than 1000, which is pretty obvious. So we have is 0 multiplied by 3. So then what do you do from here? Do you go ahead and try and calculate all of that? Well, no. What I actually go ahead and do is take these essential items. So now you know all the positions that the numbers can be in. If you multiply the number of positions for each number in the given, you're going to get your answer. That is how many ways, it could be possible. So what you do is you multiply, for example, 4 by 4. That is 16. And so we're done with the first two, right? Don't let things, get complicated. Just do it simply. Do it how you know how to do it. And so 4 by 6 is 24. 4 by 1, that is 5 plus 2. That is 64. And then you take that number and you multiply it by 3, right? If you don't memorize you don't have to memorize the, multiplications table. Just do it like like as simple as possible. 3 by 4, that is 20. That is actually 12. 3 by 4, that is 12. And 3 by 6, that is 18, plus 1, that is 19. So that's how many ways? 192. So question 22 now is a bit tricky, but it follows the same concept as question 21. It is simple, right? It follows the same concept as both of these questions. It's simple. There are no rules to this. It's complete logic though. That's the only difference that, is in these questions. Honestly, you got this. You got this exam. Don't even stress about it. It's not a difficult one. You just need to be able to logicize quickly and don't get stressed over time. That's all you need to practice for. But anyways, let's get into the question. 22 asks if x is less than y and y is less than 0, I mean, if x is less than y and y is less than z and z is less than 0, then which of the following is positive? All right. So when you get some messy nonsense like this, my advice, put numbers. So for example, let's say x is -3, or let's do it, I'm doing it backwards. All right, so let's do that. Z is less than 0, right? So let's say z is -1, okay? And the numbers under z are they're just less. So y and x, they're just less than z. So we can say that y is, for example, -2. And then you can say x is, for example, -3, right? All of these numbers are less than 0, and you know, this stands. This is completely right. You didn't do anything wrong. So now let's take the examples. First one gives us x multiplied by y multiplied by z. Is this positive? So that's A. So x is -3 multiplied by -2, right? Because z multiplied, that is not a z, multiplied by -1. So is this positive? So -3 multiplied by -2, that is 6. And 6 by -1, that is not positive. So it's not positive, right? Because it's going to be -6, and -6 is not positive. All right, let's try B. It gives us x squared. So -3 squared. So -3 multiplied by -3, that is 9, right? And multiplied by y multiplied by z, okay? So multiplied by y, that is -2. So then we have -18, okay? Right. And the rest of it is multiply that by z, which is -1. So -18 multiplied by -1, that will give you a positive 18. Oh, there you go. That's our answer. It is B. B will be a positive number. What we did here is just, giving value to the given so that it's just simpler to understand, right? But if you want to take it a step further, if you just want to, if you're really trying to, not be pressured on time, and you want to develop the skill and the ability to just become faster, because you don't become faster, don't be fooled by, thinking that you'll become faster by solving more. You'll become faster when you train your mind lucidly to be faster thinking. So what does that mean? So we know for example, we know all of these numbers are negative. It doesn't matter what value they are, right? All of them are negative. That's the given here. They're all less than 0. So any negative number, right? Any negative number squared is a positive number. So that just gives you an insight on what to do, right? So for example, in A, you'd be like, okay, so then what? So for example, in the example of A, so then it's a negative number multiplied by a negative number multiplied by a negative number. If you're quick thinking, you'll be like, that's definitely a negative number. Regardless of what number it is always going to be equal to a negative number, not a positive number. And then you go to example B, you have x squared. That changes things, because now you're multiplying two negative number. When you multiply two negative numbers, it's a positive answer. And then you multiply by another negative number, so that's a negative, and then you multiply by another negative, that's a positive. It seems complicated, but I swear to you it's not. Just think about it next time you're studying and train your mind to see things faster than actually giving value and solving. Question 23 is a classic compare question. It says, give me, compare the value of A to the value of B. The value of A is 40% of 60. The value of B is 30% of 80. And if this question doesn't give you hope of you're going to be able to do this exam, it's not going to be that hard, then I don't know what could. So how do you find any percentage super quickly? 10% rule. What is that? it's just get the 10% of that number multiplied by whatever the percent that you're trying to find is. So 40% of 60, you can just be like, well, 10% of 60, because it's a whole number, right? 10% of 60, that's just 6. And then you just multiply that by 4, right? Multiply that by 4, you get 24. So that's A. That's the value of A right here. Value of B, it is 80, right? 30% of 80. So what's 10% of 80? It's 8. Multiply that by 3. Then you also get 24, which means that they are both equal. What you can get out of this question is not that much other than the Qudurat is an easy exam. It needs just focus and dedication and, not that much even dedication. Just needs focus and just don't give up. And also the 10% rule. Very cool rule. You're not going to get difficult percentages in the Qudurat most of the time. You're going to get percentages like these, but maybe these numbers are going to, be different. It's not going to be a whole 80, a beautiful, tenth or a thousandth or a hundredth, right? It's gonna probably not have any zeros. And if that's the case, you're still gonna be fine because they're still not gonna make it that difficult. Just try to focus, you'll get it. Question 24 is asking, if x plus 2y is equals to 3, and x squared minus 4y squared is equal to 21, so then what is x minus 2y? All right, so let's write this down properly. So x plus 2y is equals to 3, okay? And x squared minus 4y squared, that is 21. And they're asking, what is x minus 2y? So let's start with this value. Why this value? Because of it being a perfect square. So anytime that you see any value that could be simplified, the goal of any question, how you should approach any question is to just try and make it easier. So how do you make this easier? Like that. If you would remember, right, if x, for example, plus y is being multiplied to x, or I mean, if you have it like that, this is the same as this right here, right? Just, keep that in mind. So anyways, let's simplify that question, or I mean that equation. So this is 4, so that's what we're going to put here. It's going to be divided by 2, x 2y, right? And then we have x minus 2y on the other side, right? Because if you multiply those together, if you just multiply those two brackets together, you're going to get this number. Minus 2y is equals to 21. So remember, the given is very important. The given has to always be used. If you're not using it, you're doing something wrong. The given here, this is not a useless equation. You don't, it's a very important one actually, because you have x plus 2y is equals to 3. So then why do we need this anymore? Cancel it out. You have 3 now. It's over. You have 3 being multiplied to x minus 2y. And that is equals to 21, right? So it's a clear example from here. So x minus 2y, divide both sides by 3. And the question is asking for x minus 2y. So you're going to get 21 over 3, that is just 7. 21 over 3, that is just 7. 3 by 7 is equals to 21, which is choice B. Now, question 25 is just completely opposite of the last 3 questions because most of them look complicated, but they're actually easy. This question looks easy, but it's a little complicated. Not even that much. If you just remember the triangle, the famous triangles, all right, you'll get it easily. So let's see. Find in the opposite figure, which is not opposite anymore, figure what is the parameter? of triangle ABC? What is the perimeter of this triangle? The whole thing, right? So what's the perimeter of that? Let's find out together. So a perimeter of any object is just, the sum of its, outer lengths. So we need two more outer lengths to find the whole perimeter. We need this one and this one. All right, let's see what we have up until now. We got 15 centimeters in here, and we have 9 centimeters in here. This is a separate triangle, seemingly. Right? It is being shown as a separate triangle with its own everything, right? It's not, it's part of a triangle, but it's being shown as a separate triangle. So in here, what are we missing from this triangle? We're missing this side. Then let's find it. Let's treat those as different triangles. Let's treat those two triangles. All right. So how do you find it? Do you remember the Pythagorean theorem? I hope you do. It is basically a squared plus b squared is equals to c squared. So what do we have here? We have, let's say, b squared and c squared, but we don't have a squared. That's what we're trying to find. So let's say a squared is missing. B squared is 9 squared. That's 81. It's a memory thing or a logic thing, depending on yourself. And we have 15 squared. This is definitely a memory thing. No one just knows 15 squared, off the top of their head. If you do, that's great. If you don't, memorize it. It is 225. That is what 15 squared is. You take those away from each other, right? It's good old subtraction. You get 144. So that's what a squared is. The square root of 144, which is also a memory thing, that's just 12. So we figured it out. On this side, this is 12. All right, now, what else do we need? We still don't have the two values that we were looking for. Well, we just received a clue. We spent too much time on this clue, so we need to just go as fast as possible to find, the other two sides. All right, so what else can we use? What are we being given? We're given that this is 30 degrees. Oh, and this is 90 degrees. Oh, there's a famous triangle, 30, 90, 60 triangle. All right, so that means that this is 60 degrees. All right, what does that have to do with anything, right? Now we can just, as simple as that, as quick as that, just figure out the two other sides. There's a rule. This side is going to be 2 by a, which is 12 here. This is the famous triangle. This is the famous triangle's rule, the 30, 60, 90 triangle. 2 by 12, that is 24. There we go. Oh, on this side is going to be a root 3. That is also 12, so that's 12 root 3. All right? And we're about done. Now that's not what the question is asking for. It's asking us to add all of these together so that we get the parameter. So you have 15 plus 24, right? Plus 24 plus 9 plus 12 root 3. Now you start with the easiest numbers first. 15 plus 9. 15 plus 9 is just 24. 24 plus 24 is 48. And 48 plus 12 root 3, right? Because those are the last numbers we have, is just 48 plus 12 root 3.
Question 26 says, find the total area of the red spots, which just means the shaded part. So these, this shaded part. Very simple question, straightforward. If you want to find the area of, any excluded part, you just take the areas that you can find and subtract them from each other. So here we have a triangle. We have a clear triangle over here. And we can take the area of that minus the area of this circle or one circle. So any of these circles, because they're identical. And the thing why it's only one is because this part fits right into here. Can you see that? It's one circle. If you take the area of this part and the area of this part, it is one circle. So you don't need to overcomplicate it. It's just the area of this circle, let's say, minus the area of this triangle. So let's get it started. The area of the triangle, half base multiplied by height. 20 multiplied by 10, which is 200. Half of 200 is 100. You can start looking at the choices. Maybe there's something here, right? Because this is starting to, so it's definitely, not 100 because we're going to subtract it by the area of the circle. So we can take that off. Next step, find the area of the circle. So what's the radius here, right? Because the area of a circle is pi r squared. We can find the diameter because, as you can see here, this section right here, right in the middle, cutting through the middle. If you look onto this whole, it is half of the rectangle, right? So if you look at the whole thing, this is 20, which means that half of it is 10, right? So this is 10, and this is 10, and that will give us a 20, because it's kind of right in the middle. So then, the radius is going to be half of the diameter. So the radius is 5. So this length is 5, because it's half of the diameter. So minus pi 5 squared. So that's 100 minus 25 pi. I suck at drawing pi. And that's going to be answer letter D.
Thank you so much for making it till the end of the video, and thank you all so much for your very kind messages. They have truly been helping me. I've been meaning to post so much more. I apologize for these delays. Once again, it's going to be more consistent from here on out. I will try my best, but thank you so much. I have seen every single message, and it makes my month, my day, and all of that. So thank you guys. And thank you once again for also doing yourself a service. This exam is not hard, but it needs practice and it needs dedication. And by watching this video and by your own practice, you are working, you are dedicating yourself, and that's good for you. And I'm happy for you that you're doing that. So thank you guys. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. الله يوفقكم جميعا.